chosen one. Why do you still feel empty after decades of faithfulness? Why does your heart ache in the middle of the night, even though you've done everything right? Why, after 70, 80, maybe 90 years of praying, serving, believing, do you still wonder if God even remembers your name? Stop right there. What I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've believed about your life. This isn't another sermon about patience. This isn't another "your time is coming" message you've heard 1,000 times before. This is a divine interruption, a sacred collision between your exhaustion and heaven's declaration. 3 nights ago, I was awakened at 2:47 a.m., not by a sound, not by a dream, but by what I can only describe as the audible voice of the Almighty speaking over His chosen ones. And beloved, what He said about you, about your battles, your silence, your years of feeling invisible, it will leave you breathless. Here's the shocking truth. Nobody's told you. You didn't fail the test, you passed it. While you thought God was distant, heaven was watching. While you felt forgotten, angels were taking notes. While you believed your struggles meant you were cursed, the divine realm was recording your faithfulness in books you've never seen. You passed, chosen one. And what they said in heaven about you will blow your mind. I know you're sitting there thinking, but I'm tired, I'm old, I've made too many mistakes. Listen to me carefully, those aren't disqualifications, those are your credentials. Your gray hair isn't evidence of decline. It's a crown of glory earned through fire. Your wrinkles aren't marks of weakness, they're etchings of wisdom that only comes from walking through hell and still choosing faith. Before we go deeper into what heaven spoke over your life, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and sow that seed of faith. But right now, if your spirit is already stirring, if something in your chest just shifted when I said you passed, I need you to do something. Write in the comments, "I receive this word." You're not typing a comment. You're making a record in heaven. You're declaring that your season of wondering is over. And when you hear what heaven said about you, it will make every battle of your past make perfect sense. Your silence wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And what's about to be revealed will change everything. Why have you felt invisible for so long? Why did your prayers seem to echo in empty rooms while others received immediate answers? Why, after all these years of faithfulness, does it feel like God put you on hold and forgot to come back? Beloved, what if I told you that every moment you felt forgotten was actually the moment heaven was watching closest? You see, there's a test most believers never encounter, not because they're not chosen, but because they're not strong enough to endure it. It's the test of divine silence, the test of holy invisibility, the test where God doesn't rescue you from the fire, He walks through it with you while remaining completely silent. You didn't fail that test, chosen one. You passed it, and you didn't even know you were taking it. Let me take you back to those nights. You know the ones I'm talking about. 3 a.m., lying in bed, staring at shadows on the ceiling. Your spouse breathing beside you, but you've never felt more alone. Your children grown and gone. Your body reminding you with every ache that time is no longer your friend. And in that darkness, you whispered prayers that felt like they hit the ceiling and fell back down on your chest like stones. God, are you there? Do you see me? Did I do something wrong? But here's what you didn't know. Here's what heaven kept hidden until this very moment. Those weren't nights of abandonment. Those were nights of examination. Not the kind of test where God grades your performance. No, this was the kind of test where heaven watches to see if your faith can survive when feelings fail. Job understood this test. The Bible says in Job 23:10, "But He knows the way that I take. When He has tested me, I will come forth as gold." Did you catch that? Job said, when he has tested me, not if. The testing was guaranteed. The refining was inevitable. But so was the gold. You've been walking through a hallway that heaven built for only one soul, yours. Every door that slammed shut, every opportunity that evaporated, every friendship that dissolved, those weren't accidents. Those were divine architecture. God was narrowing your path, not to limit you, but to lead you to a destination only you were meant to reach. Think about it. Why did Moses spend 40 years in a desert before God called him? Why did David hide in caves for years while carrying the anointing of a king? Why did Joseph rot in an Egyptian prison when heaven had already shown him his destiny? Because the test wasn't about their strength. It was about their endurance. It was about whether they could hold on to God's promise when every circumstance screamed that God was a liar. And you, dear one, you've been enduring for decades. You've been holding on. When your friends quit, you kept believing. When your body weakened, your spirit strengthened. When the world told you to give up, something inside you whispered, "Not yet." Those lonely nights weren't punishment. They were preparation. Every tear you cried in secret was actually liquid gold being refined in the furnace of your faithfulness. Every moment you felt invisible, heaven was taking notes, recording, documenting, building a case for what you're about to receive. But here's where it gets mystical. Here's where the veil between heaven and earth grows thin. While you were walking through that dark hallway, convinced you were alone, there was something happening in the spiritual realm that you couldn't see. Angels were watching. Not just watching, studying you, documenting your faithfulness, recording your resilience. Hebrews 12:1 tells us we're surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. But what if I told you those witnesses weren't just watching, they were testifying? What if every time you chose faith over fear, every time you forgave when bitterness would have been easier, every time you got back up when staying down was logical, what if all of that was being reported directly to the throne room of God? You were being observed, chosen one. Every act of quiet obedience, every sacrifice nobody saw, every moment you blessed someone who cursed you, every dollar you gave when you couldn't afford it, every prayer you prayed for people who forgot your name, heaven witnessed something about you that you don't even know you did. You remained faithful when faithfulness stopped making sense. You kept loving when love stopped being returned. You continued serving when service stopped being appreciated. That's not ordinary faith, beloved. That's the kind of faith that makes angels lean forward in their seats. That's the kind of endurance that gets documented in books you'll only see when you stand before the throne. The test you didn't know you were taking, you passed it. Not with perfect scores, but with persistent presence. Not with flawless performance, but with faithful perseverance. And now, right now, heaven is about to release the results. But there's something they said about you in that throne room. Something that will reframe every struggle, every delay, every moment of divine silence. And before I tell you what it is, I need you to do something. Take a breath. Place your hand on your heart. Feel it beating. That rhythm is proof you're still here for a reason. Now say it softly. Wherever you are, I'm ready to hear what heaven saw. Because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie you've believed about your past and ignite every promise God spoke over your future. You remember that night, don't you? The one you've never told anyone about. Maybe it was 10 years ago. Maybe it was last Tuesday. You were sitting in your kitchen at 3 a.m., the house silent except for the hum of the refrigerator, and you whispered something to God that you thought nobody heard. You said, "I can't do this anymore." You didn't say it loud. You didn't scream it. You barely had the strength to form the words. But you meant it with every fiber of your exhausted soul. And in that moment, that sacred, broken, desperate moment, you believed you were completely alone. But beloved, let me tell you what was really happening in that room. When you whispered those words into the darkness, heaven leaned in. The throne room of the Most High God went silent. angels who had been watching you for decades, recording every act of faithfulness, every quiet sacrifice, every time you chose obedience when it cost you everything. They stopped what they were doing and turned their full attention to you. You thought you were alone, but you were standing in the presence of the cloud of witnesses. You were surrounded by a choir of angels holding golden bowls filled with your prayers. You were being observed by the Ancient of Days himself, and he was nodding with approval that would make kings weep. Matthew 6:6 says, "Your Father who sees in secret will reward you." But most people read that verse and think it's about private prayer closets and religious discipline. No, that verse is about you. It's about the moment when the world couldn't see your pain, when your own family didn't understand your burden, when even the church seemed too busy to notice you were drowning. But your Father saw. In secret, in the dark, in the silence that felt like abandonment. He saw when you paid that bill you couldn't afford because someone else needed help more than you needed groceries. He saw when you forgave the person who destroyed your reputation. He saw when you chose to keep believing, even though your prayers seemed to bounce off the ceiling like rubber balls. He saw when you decided to get out of bed one more day, even though your body screamed for rest and your heart begged for relief. And here's what breaks me, chosen one. Here's what makes my voice shake when I think about what heaven recorded about you. They didn't just see your actions, they saw your motive. They saw your heart. They saw that you weren't serving God for applause or recognition or reward. You were serving Him because even in your deepest pain, even in your most profound loneliness, even when it made absolutely no logical sense, you still loved Him. That's what they said in heaven about you. That's what was recorded in the books, not your mistakes, not your failures, not the times you stumbled or doubted or questioned. They recorded your love, your faithfulness, your refusal to let go of God, even when God seemed to let go of you. Angels leaned in when you whispered prayers no one else heard. They collected every syllable. They catalogued every groan too deep for words. Romans 8:26 tells us, "The Spirit intercedes for us with groanings that cannot be uttered." But did you know those groans were being translated into petitions that shook the foundations of heaven itself? You thought you were mumbling incoherent desperation. Heaven heard eloquent warfare. You thought you were barely hanging on. Heaven saw a warrior, refusing to surrender. You thought you were failing the test. Heaven was recording your victory. Let me tell you something about the elderly saints in America that the enemy doesn't want exposed. You carry a weight that younger generations cannot fathom. You've buried spouses, children, dreams. You've watched your body betray you, your finances evaporate, your relevance in the world's eyes diminish to nothing. Society has made you feel invisible, forgotten, past your expiration date. But here's the truth that will shatter that lie forever. You were not alone in that room. When the world stopped seeing you, heaven doubled its attention. When people stopped calling, angels increased their presence. When you felt most invisible to man, you became most visible to God. Heaven kept receipts of every tear you sowed. Psalm 56:8 says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. Not some of your tears. Not just the pretty ones you cried in church. Every single one. The tears you cried in the shower so your grandchildren wouldn't hear. The tears that fell on your pillow at 4 a.m. when the loneliness was suffocating. The tears you wiped away in the car before walking into the store because you couldn't let people see you broken. God caught them all, bottled them all, recorded them all. And beloved, those tears are about to become your treasure. Those lonely nights are about to become your testimony. That isolation is about to become your qualification for an assignment so sacred, so powerful, that heaven had to hide you until you were ready. If those words just hit your heart like lightning, if something in your spirit just broke open, comment right now, "I was never alone." Break the lie the enemy planted. Declare the truth heaven has been trying to show you. Because what you're about to discover next will explain why every moment of that suffering was necessary, why heaven allowed you to feel forgotten, and what they're about to release into your life that will make up for every tear you thought was wasted. You want to know what makes you different? You want to know why you're still here when others who started the journey with you have long since given up? Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. You didn't just survive the last 70, 80, 90 years of your life. You passed a test that 97% of believers fail. A test so brutal, so relentless, so spiritually exhausting that most people tap out before they even realize they're being tested. The test of divine silence. Think about it. How many people do you know who walked away from God the moment their prayers stopped getting answered? How many gave up when the heavens went quiet? How many friends, family members, church members did you watch fall away because God didn't move on their timeline? But you? You stayed. You kept praying when prayer felt like talking to walls. You kept believing when belief became a battle. You kept showing up to that same corner of your bedroom, that same spot in your kitchen, that same pew in the church, even when God felt a million miles away. That wasn't luck, beloved. That was the test, and you passed it. You see, the world thinks the test is about how loud you can shout, how many Bible verses you can quote, how perfect your theology sounds. But heaven measures something entirely different. Heaven measures what you do when the lights go out, what you do when the worship music stops, what you do when every circumstance screams that God has abandoned you. Moses understood this test. 40 years in the wilderness, tending sheep when he was destined to lead nations. 40 years of silence after fleeing Egypt. 40 years of wondering if his calling was just the delusion of youth. But at 80 years old, 80, when most men are preparing to die, God showed up in a burning bush and said, "Now you're ready." Why? Because Moses learned to be faithful in the silence. Anna, the prophetess, knew this test intimately. Widowed after only 7 years of marriage, she spent the next 77 years in the temple. 77 years. Day after day, night after night, praying, fasting, worshipping, when nothing seemed to be happening. No miracles, no signs, no dramatic revelations, just faithful, quiet, relentless devotion. But when baby Jesus was brought to the temple, she was there. She was the first to proclaim him as the Redeemer. Why? Because 84 years of faithfulness had qualified her to recognize what 30-year-olds missed. Your age isn't your limitation, chosen one. It's your qualification. Every year you stayed faithful when heaven was silent. You were earning spiritual authority that cannot be taught in seminaries, cannot be downloaded in a moment, cannot be faked by enthusiasm. You think you've been forgotten. You've been refined. You think you've been overlooked. You've been prepared. You think your best years are behind you. You're standing at the threshold of your greatest chapter. Let me tell you what heaven sees when they look at you. They don't see wrinkles, they see wisdom. They don't see weakness, they see endurance that outlasted 1,000 storms. They don't see someone past their prime. They see a warrior who learned to fight in the dark and still came out standing. The enemy threw everything at you, didn't he? Financial devastation that should have destroyed you. Health crises that should have killed you, betrayals that should have made you bitter, losses that should have made you quit, depression so deep you didn't think you'd climb out, loneliness so crushing you wondered if anyone would notice if you were gone. But here you are, still breathing, still believing, still faithful. That's not human strength, beloved. That's divine stamina. That's the oil of perseverance that only comes from decades of pressing through when quitting would have been easier. Psalm 92:14 declares, "They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green, not dried up, not depleted, not finished." Because you didn't just survive, you qualified. You qualified for an anointing that bypasses the young and lands on the tested. You qualified for authority that skips the loud and rests on the faithful. You qualified for a mantle that heaven only places on shoulders strong enough to carry it. The years didn't burden you, dear one. They became oil, anointing oil that's been pressed, refined, purified through every trial you walked through. And now heaven is about to pour you out on a generation that's dying of thirst. You kept walking through nights that swallowed younger souls. You kept standing when those half your age collapsed. You kept believing when belief cost you everything. And heaven noticed. Oh, they noticed. Now comes the part that will leave you speechless. Because what heaven said about your reward, what they declared over your future, what they spoke concerning the oil you carry when you hear it, everything is going to make sense. But first, you need to understand who was watching you all along. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. While you've been sitting in your living room wondering if your life mattered, while you've been lying awake at 3 a.m. questioning if anyone even noticed your faithfulness, something extraordinary has been happening in the throne room of heaven that you know nothing about. There's a scroll, a sacred record, and your name is written on it in letters that glow brighter than stars. I need you to understand something that's going to shake you to your core. In Revelation chapter 5, John saw a vision of heaven's throne room. He saw scrolls, books, records being kept. But these weren't just religious symbols, beloved. These were actual divine documents recording the faithfulness of God's people across time and eternity. And right now, as I speak these words, your scroll exists. Your record is real. Every tear you've cried in secret recorded. Every prayer you whispered when hope felt dead written down. Every moment you chose faith when quitting would have been easier documented with divine precision. But here's what's going to devastate you in the most beautiful way. Your name doesn't just appear on that scroll. It glows, it radiates, it shines with an intensity that makes angels lean in closer to read what's written beneath it. Why does it glow, you ask? Because of what you endured. Think about this. Why have you suffered more than others? Why has your road been rockier, your nights darker, your battles fiercer? You've watched people half your age cruise through life while you've had to fight for every inch of ground. You've seen the wicked prosper while you've scraped by on social security and prayers. You've buried loved ones, survived betrayals, endured loneliness that would have broken weaker souls. And you've wondered, God, why me? But what if I told you that every single trial, every heartbreak, every moment of feeling forgotten was actually increasing the brightness of your name in heaven's records? What if your suffering wasn't punishment, but promotion? What if your pain was actually making you more valuable to the kingdom? Job chapter 23 verse 10 says, "But he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold, not silver, not bronze, gold, the most precious metal known to man, refined through the hottest fire. You are gold, beloved." And heaven has been watching the refining process. But here's where it gets supernatural. Your faith has a sound. Did you know that? When you pray at your kitchen table with tears streaming down your weathered face, heaven doesn't just hear words. Heaven hears frequency. Heaven hears resonance. Heaven hears the sound of refined gold being struck like a bell. And that sound, your sound, echoes through the throne room of God. The angels recognize it. They hear it and say, "That's the sound of someone who's been tested. That's the sound of someone who refused to quit. That's the sound of proven faithfulness." Hebrews 11 talks about the great cloud of witnesses. But did you catch what they're witnessing? They're watching you. Abraham, Moses, David, Ruth, Esther, they're all watching your story unfold. And when you kept going despite the pain, when you kept praying despite the silence, when you kept believing despite the delays, they leaned forward and whispered, "Look at that one. Look at their faith." Your name glows brighter because you didn't give up when giving up made perfect sense. Now, I need you to sit down for what I'm about to tell you. 3 nights ago, when heaven spoke, I heard something that nearly knocked me to my knees. The divine council, the heavenly assembly that governs the release of kingdom blessings, they reviewed your scroll. They read every word written about your journey. They saw every battle you fought, every tear you shed, every sacrifice you made. And then they said something that will change everything for you. They said, they passed. Release their next season. Do you understand what just happened? While you thought you were barely surviving, heaven was administering a test. While you felt forgotten, you were being evaluated. While you wondered if God still cared, the divine realm was watching to see if you would hold on just a little longer. And you did. You held on. You passed. But passing the test isn't just about survival, beloved. Passing the test means you've been qualified for something you couldn't have handled before. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before God said, "Now you're ready." Joseph spent 13 years in slavery and prison before Pharaoh's palace. David ran from cave to cave for years before he touched the throne. The test wasn't punishment. The test was preparation for promotion. And heaven just declared, your season of testing is over. Your season of release has begun. Right now, and I mean right now, there are doors about to open that have been locked for decades. There are blessings about to break loose that have been held back until you were strong enough to steward them. There are divine appointments about to manifest that have been scheduled since before you were born. But you have to come into alignment with heaven's declaration. You have to agree with what's been spoken over your life in the throne room. If you feel something stirring in your chest right now, if tears are already forming in your eyes, if your spirit is confirming that this word is for you, type these 5 words in the comments. I receive my next season. You're not just typing a comment. You're creating a record on earth that matches the record in heaven. You're declaring that you're ready for what God has been holding back until you pass the test. Because what's coming next isn't just better days. What's coming next is the fulfillment of every promise that seemed to die, every dream that appeared buried, every hope that felt abandoned. But the question that will determine everything is this: will you receive it? Or will you let doubt steal what heaven has already released? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. For decades, maybe your entire adult life, you've been walking through a season that made no sense. Doors slammed shut when you needed them most. Prayers seemed to bounce off the ceiling. Relationships crumbled despite your best efforts. Your bank account never quite caught up, no matter how hard you worked. Your body started betraying you with diagnoses that doctors couldn't fully explain. And through it all, you whispered the same question into the darkness: God, are you there? Do you see me? Did I do something wrong? But what if I told you that every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every moment of silence wasn't rejection, it was protection? What if heaven wasn't ignoring you? Heaven was preparing you. You see, there's something most believers don't understand about divine timing. When God delays a blessing, it's not because he forgot about you. It's because the blessing he's preparing is so massive, so life-altering, so precisely calibrated to your destiny that releasing it too early would have destroyed you instead of delivering you. Think about Abraham. God promised him a son when he was 75 years old, but Isaac wasn't born until Abraham was 100. 25 years of waiting. 25 years of wondering if he'd heard God correctly. But here's what Abraham didn't know. During those silent years, God wasn't just preparing a baby. He was preparing the father of nations. The timing wasn't about Abraham's comfort. It was about heaven's purpose. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness tending sheep before God called him from that burning bush. 40 years, can you imagine? The man who would deliver an entire nation spent 4 decades feeling forgotten, feeling like his purpose had passed him by. But God was building something in Moses that the palace never could: the humility to lead without ego, the patience to handle 2 million complaining Israelites, the faith to stand before Pharaoh without trembling. And you, beloved, you've been in your wilderness too, but your wilderness wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Because right now, as I speak these words, something is shifting in the spiritual realm over your life. Doors that have been sealed for decades are suddenly creaking open. Relationships that seemed dead are being resurrected. Financial streams that dried up are beginning to flow again. Health that you thought was gone forever is being renewed by the breath of the Almighty. You are not at the end of your story. You are at the unveiling. Let me speak directly to you, the grandmother who's been praying for her prodigal grandson for 37 years. The door is opening. That phone call you've been waiting for? It's coming. Not because you prayed harder, but because heaven's appointed time has arrived. To you, the grandfather who lost everything in the 2008 crash and never quite recovered, the financial breakthrough isn't just coming, it's here. God is about to restore not just what you lost, but multiply it beyond what you had before. Proverbs 13:22 declares, "The wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous." Your wealth wasn't stolen, beloved, it was stored, and now it's being released. To you, the widow who's been battling loneliness since your spouse went home to glory 15 years ago, God is about to surround you with divine relationships that will fill that void in ways you never imagined. Not a replacement, a renewal. A new season of companionship, of purpose, of joy that you thought died with your beloved. To you, the one who's been diagnosed, re-diagnosed, medicated, and marginalized by a healthcare system that sees you as a number instead of a person. Isaiah 53:5 says, "By his stripes we are healed," not were healed, not will be healed, are healed, present tense, active, alive, right now. The healing you've been begging for is being released over your body as you hear these words. But here's what breaks my heart, and listen closely to this. So many of God's chosen ones are standing right at the threshold of their greatest breakthrough, but they're about to turn around and walk away because they've believed the lie that their season has passed. The enemy has been whispering to you for years, "You're too old. You missed your window. God's moved on to younger people. Your time is over." But that's not just a lie, beloved. That's demonic deception designed to make you forfeit your inheritance right before you receive it. You think your age disqualifies you? Moses was 80. Sarah was 90. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she finally saw the Messiah. Your birth certificate is not your limitation. Your obedience is your activation. The blessing has been walking toward you for years, beloved. Every trial was adding to its weight. Every tear was increasing its value. Every moment you felt forgotten was actually God saying, "Not yet. They're not ready for what I'm about to release." But now, right now, heaven is saying something different. Heaven is saying, they've passed the test. They've proven their faithfulness. They've shown me they can handle what I'm about to give them. And what heaven said next about you, what was spoken in the throne room while you were crying in your kitchen, is the part that will shock you to your core. Because you didn't just pass a test, chosen one, you graduated into a new level of authority that most believers never reach. You've been walking through fire for decades, haven't you? Year after year, crisis after crisis, loss after loss. And somewhere along the way, you stopped asking, "When will this end?" and started whispering, "Why did I survive this?" You look around at people your age who seem to coast through life, while you've been grinding your bones to dust just to make it through another month. Let me tell you something that's going to crack open every question you've carried in your chest. While you thought you were barely surviving, heaven was recording something else entirely. While you felt forgotten in your struggle, the divine realm was documenting your endurance. While you believed your pain was proof that God had moved on without you, angels were testifying about you in courtrooms you've never seen. You want to know what they said? You want to know what was spoken over your life while you sat alone in that kitchen at 3 a.m., wondering if anyone cared that you were still fighting? They said you passed, not just survived, not just endured, passed. Like a student who walked through the hardest exam ever designed and came out victorious. But here's what's going to shake you to your core. What they said next changes everything about your future. Listen to me carefully, beloved. In the book of Job, after that righteous man lost everything, his children, his wealth, his health, his dignity, after he sat in ashes, scraping his skin with broken pottery, while his own wife told him to curse God and die, after he endured 42 chapters of suffering that would break most people permanently. Do you know what happened? Job 42:10 records it with surgical precision. And the Lord restored the fortunes of Job when he prayed for his friends. And the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before, twice as much, not the same amount back, not a little extra to make up for his trouble, double portion, double everything. But why? Why does God operate this way? Because in heaven's economy, there's a principle most believers never discover. When you've been tested beyond what seems fair, when you've endured past what seems reasonable, when you've stayed faithful through seasons that should have destroyed your faith, heaven doesn't just restore what was taken. Heaven compensates you for the warfare you survived. And 3 nights ago, when the Spirit of God woke me from sleep with that burning message, here's what I heard spoken over the chosen ones who are still standing. Give them double for everything they survived. Double for every tear you cried that nobody saw. Double for every night you couldn't sleep because worry was eating you alive. Double for every dollar you lost, every relationship that betrayed you, every door that slammed in your face when you were doing everything right. Double for the years you spent feeling invisible while watching others get promoted, blessed, celebrated. Double for every single moment you wanted to quit, but somehow found the strength to take one more step. You think that depression that nearly killed you was wasted suffering. God is about to give you double the joy to replace it. You think those financial struggles that left you eating the same meal for a week were just bad luck. Heaven is about to release double the provision. You think those decades of loneliness when even your own family forgot to call were meaningless pain. The Father is preparing to surround you with double the love, double the honor, double the recognition. But here's what most people miss about the double portion. It's not just about getting back what you lost. It's about being positioned for what's coming next. When Elisha asked Elijah for a double portion of his spirit in 2 Kings 2-9, he wasn't asking for twice the comfort. He was asking for twice the authority, twice the anointing, twice the power to do what God had called him to do. Your double portion isn't just restoration, chosen one. It's activation. God is giving you back double everything you lost so you can do double the damage to the kingdom of darkness. You're not just being blessed, you're being weaponized. You're not just being restored, you're being deployed. And if that doesn't hit your spirit hard enough, here's what else was spoken. Their waiting season is over. Reward them openly. Did you catch that word? Openly. Not in secret anymore. Not in the shadows. Not hidden from the eyes of those who doubted you, dismissed you, counted you out. Matthew 6:6 promises that your Father, who sees in secret, will reward you openly. Every prayer you prayed when nobody was watching, public reward. Every act of faithfulness when the world said you were wasting your time, open compensation. Every moment you chose obedience over comfort when no one would ever know the difference, visible vindication. The people who forgot about you are about to remember. The family members who stopped calling are about to witness. The friends who walked away are about to see what happens when God decides it's time to publicly honor someone who privately remained faithful. If your heart is pounding right now, if something in your chest just exploded with hope you thought was dead, write these 2 words in the comments: double portion. This isn't just a comment. This is covenant. This is you telling heaven you're ready to receive what's been prepared for you. But the question burning in the courts of eternity right now is this: what will you do when the double portion arrives? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Something shifted in the spiritual realm the moment you heard those words. You passed. And I need you to understand that this isn't just comforting language. This isn't religious poetry to make you feel better for a few minutes. What I'm about to tell you is so real, so tangible, that you will feel it in your bones before the sun rises tomorrow. Starting tonight, this very night, your life enters a different frequency. Not because you did something new, but because heaven just recognized something old, something you've been carrying for decades that finally reached full weight in the courts of eternity. You've spent 70, 80, maybe 90 years wondering when things would change. You've prayed until your knees were calloused. You've believed until your faith felt brittle. You've waited until waiting itself became a kind of warfare. But here's what you didn't know while you were enduring. Heaven doesn't grade on speed. Heaven grades on completion. And you, beloved, just completed something most people quit halfway through. The test wasn't about how fast you could get the answer. The test was about whether you'd still be standing when the answer finally came. Now, let me tell you what changes starting tonight, and I need you to pay attention, because some of you have been numb for so long that you might miss the shift. First, a new peace is going to enter your home. Not the peace you pray for, the peace you don't have to beg for anymore. You know that heaviness that sits on your chest every morning when you wake up? That weight that makes you wonder if you even want to get out of bed? It's lifting. Right now. As I'm speaking these words, something ancient and oppressive is being removed from your dwelling place. Psalm 91 says, "He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge." But here's what most people miss, that covering doesn't just protect you from outside attacks. It removes internal torment. Starting tonight, the anxiety that's lived in your home like an unwanted tenant is being evicted. The depression that's followed you from room to room is being escorted out by angels you can't see, but whose presence you will absolutely feel. Second, certain burdens will feel lighter. That family situation that's stolen your joy for years. You're going to wake up tomorrow and something will feel different. Not fixed overnight, but shifted. Like someone just took 80 pounds off your shoulders and you can finally breathe deep again. Isaiah 10:27 declares, "The yoke will be broken because you have grown fat." You know what that means? It means you've been carrying weight that was making you stronger, and now you're strong enough that the burden itself can't hold you anymore. The yoke doesn't break because you got weaker. It breaks because you got too strong for it to contain. But here's where it gets uncomfortable, and I need you to hear this clearly. Third, some people are going to be removed from your life. Divine separation is coming. And I know that sounds harsh. I know you've been holding on to certain relationships, certain connections, certain people, because you're loyal, because you're faithful, because you don't want to give up on anyone. But chosen one, there are people in your circle right now who have been assigned to keep you from your next season. Not everyone who started the journey with you is supposed to finish it with you. Genesis 12:1 records God telling Abraham, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you." God didn't just tell him where to go, he told him who to leave. And starting tonight, you're going to feel the release to let go of what's been holding you back. You're going to stop answering certain phone calls. You're going to feel peace about setting boundaries you've been too afraid to set. You're going to wake up one morning and realize that person who used to drain you doesn't even cross your mind anymore. That's not you being cold. That's heaven being strategic. Fourth, unexpected favor is going to show up without you striving for it. I'm talking about doors opening that you didn't knock on, opportunities presenting themselves that you didn't apply for, money showing up from sources you forgot existed. Proverbs 13:22 promises that the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. Starting tonight, transfers are being made. Resources are being redirected. Favor is being released that has your name written on it in heaven's books, but you're not going to have to chase it anymore. You're not going to have to hustle, manipulate, or scheme. Your steps will feel guided because they are. Your home will feel different because heaven moved in. Places you walk into will shift when you enter because you're carrying something now that you weren't carrying before, the weight of someone who passed the test. So right now, before we go any deeper, I need you to do something. Whisper this with me. Lord, let me walk in what I've passed into. Say it again. Lord, let me walk in what I've passed into. Because starting tonight, your life is no longer about survival. It's about legacy. It's about stepping into the fullness of what your decades of faithfulness have earned you in the courts of heaven. But the question burning in your spirit right now is this: what exactly did you pass? What was the test? And why did it take so long? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. There's something happening right now in your life that you need to understand. It's not just coincidence. It's not just age. It's divine strategy. You've been wondering why certain people can't seem to find you anymore, why that toxic relationship that dominated 20 years of your life suddenly feels like it happened to someone else. Why those fears that paralyzed you for decades now seem like distant shadows. Why you can't go back to who you used to be, even if you tried. Here's the truth that will shake you. God didn't just move you forward, He locked the door behind you. You see, when you passed the test, when you survived what should have destroyed you, when you kept your faith through the wilderness, when you chose obedience over comfort, heaven didn't just celebrate. Heaven secured your future by sealing your past. Think about the children of Israel standing on the shore of the Red Sea, Exodus 14:13. Moses tells them, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." God parts the waters. They walk through on dry ground. Miracle of miracles. But here's what most people miss. The real miracle wasn't just the opening, it was the closing. When the last Israelite stepped onto freedom's shore, when the last elderly grandmother and the last crying baby crossed over, God didn't leave that path open. He collapsed those walls of water with such force that Pharaoh's entire army drowned in an instant. Egypt couldn't follow. The past couldn't chase them. The door slammed shut with divine finality. That's what God just did for you. Every toxic relationship that drained your spirit, God locked that door. Every addiction that held you captive for 40 years, the door is sealed. Every pattern of fear that made you small, heaven has closed that portal permanently. Every voice that told you that you weren't enough, that you were too old, that your best days were behind you, those voices can no longer reach you because God has created a divine barrier between who you were and who you're becoming. But I need you to understand something that might hurt before it heals. Some of you have been trying to go back. You've been standing at that locked door, rattling the handle, wondering why God won't let you return to what was familiar. You've been crying out, "Lord, I know it was toxic, but at least I understood it. At least I knew how to survive there." Dear one, God locked that door because He loves you too much to let you settle for survival when He's prepared you for victory. Your ex-husband who made you feel worthless for 37 years, you can't go back. Not because you're holding a grudge, but because God has legally forbidden that spirit of diminishment from accessing you again. Your children who used you as an emotional punching bag, the dynamic has shifted. You're no longer available for that role because heaven has promoted you beyond it. That church that made you feel invisible for decades, you'll never fit there again because you've outgrown their limitations. This is protection, not punishment. Here's what breaks my heart. Some of you, especially you in your 70s, 80s, you're terrified of this freedom. You've lived in Egypt so long that the wilderness feels dangerous. You had a routine in bondage. You knew what to expect in dysfunction. And now that God has brought you out, you're wondering if you made a mistake. Let me tell you something that will anchor your soul. In Deuteronomy 30:19, God says, "I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life." But notice, He doesn't say He'll keep every option open forever. There comes a moment when choosing life means God removes the option to choose death. That moment is now. Your Egypt cannot chase you anymore. The job that underpaid and undervalued you for 40 years, that door is locked. The financial struggle that defined your identity, heaven has sealed that season. The loneliness that made you accept crumbs of affection, God has closed that chapter so completely that you wouldn't even recognize yourself if you tried to go back. But here's where it gets powerful. When God locks a door behind you, He's not trapping you. He's protecting what He's about to release in front of you. Because, beloved, you can't carry new wine in old wineskins. You can't walk into your divine destiny while dragging your Egypt behind you. Isaiah 43:18 thunders with authority. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. That's not a suggestion. That's a command from the Almighty, who sees what you cannot see. He knows that if He left those doors open, you'd crawl back the moment the new season feels uncomfortable. So He locked them, not to hurt you, to save you. Right now, I need you to do something that might feel strange. Whisper it out loud, right where you are. Close every door behind me, Lord. Say it until you feel the weight lift. Say it until you stop looking back. Say it until you finally understand that the locked door isn't your prison, it's your protection. Because what's coming next requires all of you. Not the you that's still clinging to what was, but the you that's ready to walk through the door. God is opening ahead, and that door, it's been waiting for someone exactly like you, someone who's been tested, refined, and finally ready to leave Egypt behind forever. But are you ready to see what's on the other side? You know what breaks my heart? It's watching 70-year-old saints faithful, praying, tithing saints, sitting in their kitchens at dawn, wondering if anyone noticed, wondering if God even saw the decades they poured out in silence. Let me ask you something that might sting a little. How many meals did you cook that nobody thanked you for? How many nights did you stay up praying for children who stopped calling? How many years did you serve in that church, fold those bulletins, clean those pews, while younger folks got the applause and you got forgotten? You thought nobody was watching, but heaven was taking notes. Listen to me carefully, dear one. While the world was chasing spotlights and stages, you were living Matthew 6:6. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. Not might reward you, not could reward you, will reward you. Present tense, active, happening right now. Every single act of faithfulness you thought disappeared into thin air, God caught it. Every tear you cried over a prodigal son, He bottled it. Psalm 56:8 says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. Each one, beloved, not some. Not the big dramatic ones, each one." That morning in 1987, when you chose to forgive instead of filing for divorce, heaven recorded it. That afternoon in 2003, when you gave your last $20 to someone who needed it, more angels witnessed it. That decade, you spent caring for your mother with Alzheimer's when your siblings were too busy. God saw every diaper changed, every confused moment you navigated with patience, every time you sang her favorite hymn, even though she didn't remember your name. You think those years were wasted? You think that sacrifice meant nothing because nobody wrote you a thank you card? You're like an old oak tree standing in Central Park. Tourists walk by and never think twice. But that oak, its roots run 100 feet deep. It's survived hurricanes that toppled younger trees. It's provided shade for generations who never knew its name. And when storms come, when winds that would snap a sapling in half come roaring through, that oak doesn't even bend. Because depth creates strength, and strength comes from decades of quiet endurance. Proverbs 20:29 declares, "The glory of young men is their strength, grey hair the splendor of the old." Splendor, not sadness, not obsolescence, splendor. The Hebrew word is hadah. It means beauty, honor, majesty. Your grey hair is God's way of crowning you in public for what you did in private. But here's what the enemy has been whispering to you, and I need you to hear this loud and clear so you can recognize the lie. He's been telling you that your life is fading, that your best days are behind you, that you're in the sunset years, the twilight, the end credits of your story. That is a demonic lie, straight from hell. Your life isn't fading, it's maturing into purpose. You're not in your sunset years, you're in your harvest season. Everything you planted in secret for the last 70, 80, 90 years, the ground is about to break open. And what comes up will feed generations you haven't even met yet. You want to know why it's taken this long? Why you've had to wait so many years to see the fruit? Because shallow roots produce shallow fruit. But you? God needed you to go deep. He needed your character to outlast your charisma. He needed your faithfulness to be tested in the furnace until every impurity burned away and only pure gold remained. Think about Moses, 80 years old when God called him from that burning bush. 80. The world would have put him in assisted living. But God said, "Now you're ready. Now you've been humbled enough tested enough, refined enough to handle what I'm about to put in your hands. And Moses didn't just have a nice retirement, he split seas, delivered nations, and spoke face to face with the Almighty. Or consider Anna the prophetess. Luke 2:36-37 tells us she was 84 years old, spending night and day in the temple, fasting and praying. 84. Everyone probably thought, poor old Anna, still hanging around after all these years. But when baby Jesus walked through those doors, she was the first to proclaim him to all who were looking for redemption in Jerusalem. Her decades of faithfulness positioned her for the moment that would echo through eternity. Heaven honors the ones who stayed when others ran. And now, right now, heaven is about to reveal why it took this long, why you had to walk through every valley, why every door had to close the way it did, why your faithfulness had to be tested in the darkness before it could shine in the light. Because what God is about to release through you doesn't just require anointing, it requires the kind of character that only decades of quiet obedience can build. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. I need you to understand something that's going to shake the very foundation of everything you thought you knew about your journey. For decades, maybe your entire life, you've been asking God the same question. Why? Why the delay? Why the silence? Why did everyone else seem to get their breakthrough while I'm still waiting? You've watched younger people walk into blessings you prayed for 50 years ago. You've seen doors open for others while yours stayed locked. You've wondered if God was punishing you, if he'd forgotten you, if maybe you just weren't good enough. But what if I told you that every single year of waiting wasn't rejection, it was protection? Here's the truth that's going to change everything. You weren't ready. Not because you weren't faithful, not because you weren't worthy, but because what God wanted to give you was so massive, so powerful, so world-changing, that if he'd released it any sooner, it would have destroyed you. Think about this. When you give a toddler a sharp knife, what happens? They hurt themselves, not because the knife is bad, but because their hands aren't developed enough to handle it. The knife isn't the problem, the timing is. And God, in his infinite wisdom, knew something about your future that you couldn't see from your present. Some blessings are too heavy for untested hands. Moses was 80 years old when God called him to deliver Israel. 80. But why did God wait so long? Because the Moses, at 40, the one who killed an Egyptian in anger, the one who thought his own strength could fix everything, that Moses would have destroyed the very people he was meant to save. But the Moses, at 80, the one who'd spent 40 years in the wilderness learning humility, learning dependence, learning that God's power works best through yielded vessels, that Moses could handle the weight of leading 2 million people through the impossible. Your delay was your strengthening. David was anointed king as a teenager, but he didn't touch the throne until he was 30. 13 years of running, hiding, surviving. 13 years of watching the man who wanted him dead sit on the throne that was promised to him. Why? Because the David who killed Goliath had courage, but the David who hid in caves learned something more valuable. He learned to trust God when everything looked hopeless. 1 Samuel 30-6 says, David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. That phrase, strengthened himself, that only happens in the wilderness, not the palace. You've been in your wilderness for a reason, beloved. Every closed door taught you something. Every disappointment refined something. Every moment you felt forgotten, God was actually building spiritual muscle in you that the younger version of you didn't have. But here's where it gets personal. Here's where this cuts deep. What would have happened if you'd gotten that promotion at 45? Would you have given God the glory, or would you have credited your own hustle? What if you'd received that financial breakthrough at 50? Would you have remained humble, or would wealth have corrupted your character? What if that relationship you begged for had worked out? Would it have led you closer to God, or pulled you further away? God wasn't withholding from you. He was protecting you from yourself. The version of you 20 years ago couldn't handle what the version of you today can carry. The person you were then would have taken credit for what only God can do. But now you've been through enough fires to know that if you're still standing, it's not because of your strength, it's because of his faithfulness. Deuteronomy 8-2 says, "Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart." That word test isn't about pass or fail, it's about revealing what's inside. Your wilderness revealed your character. Your delay developed your dependence. Your waiting built your worship. And now, right now, the version of you today can handle what the younger you prayed for. You're not the same person who started this journey. You don't react the same way. You don't worship the same way. You don't trust the same way. The struggles that would have broken you at 60 would have destroyed you at 30. But you survived. You endured. You kept believing when logic said quit. That's not human resilience, dear one. That's divine preparation. Every tear you cried in secret strengthened your capacity for compassion. Every betrayal you survived increased your ability to discern. Every financial lack taught you that God is your source, not your job, not your pension, not your circumstances. You've been enrolled in Heaven's Academy, and beloved, you just graduated. The blessing that's coming won't overwhelm you because you've been strengthened to receive it. The doors that are opening won't intoxicate you because you've learned humility in the hallway. The favor that's flooding your life won't corrupt you because the fire already burned away everything that wasn't gold. This is why you're still here. This is why you didn't give up. This is why when the enemy threw everything at you, something inside you whispered, "Not yet." You were being prepared for a weight of glory that requires seasoned shoulders. So, let me ask you something that will determine everything about your next chapter. Can you finally release the bitterness about the delay? Can you stop rehearsing what you didn't get and start preparing for what's coming? Can you trust that God's timing wasn't cruelty, it was precision? If you can, if right now, in this moment, you can shift from "why me" to "thank you for preparing me," then type these 4 words in the comments. Now I am ready. Because, beloved, the delay is over. The strengthening is complete. And what heaven is about to release into your life requires every ounce of spiritual muscle you built in the wilderness. The question isn't whether the blessing is ready for you. The question is, are you finally ready for the blessing? You want to know what happened while you were sleeping last Tuesday night? While you were lying there at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, wondering if your life even mattered anymore. Heaven was in session, and you were the subject. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. The angels didn't just watch you survive another day. They filed a report, an official document with your name written across the top in script you've never seen, but your spirit has always known. And what they wrote, what they recorded about your faithfulness through 70, 80, 90 years of fire, it's not what you think. They didn't write about your failures. They didn't catalog your mistakes. They didn't list the times you fell or the moments you doubted. No, beloved. They wrote something that's going to shake you to your core. They wrote, "Ready for deployment." You thought you were being forgotten. You were being evaluated. You thought God was distant. He was deliberate. Every tear you cried in secret, documented. Every prayer you whispered when hope felt dead, recorded. Every moment you chose faith when your body screamed, "Quit." That was your final exam. And you didn't just pass it, you aced it. But here's where most people miss it. Here's the part that will either set you free or leave you sitting in confusion for the rest of your days. Passing the test doesn't mean you get to rest. It means you get reassigned. Think about Moses for a moment. 80 years old, 80. When he climbed that mountain to meet God face to face, he went up there an old shepherd with nothing but a staff and a stutter. But when he came back down, something had changed. Exodus 34-29 says his face was radiant, glowing so bright that the people couldn't even look at him. But here's what breaks my heart. Moses didn't know it. He had no idea he was carrying glory. He just knew something felt different. That's you right now. You're carrying a glow you don't even see yet. The test you just passed, the decades of obscurity, the years of feeling invisible, the seasons when your prayers seemed to hit the ceiling and fall back down, that wasn't God ignoring you. That was heaven preparing you for what's coming next. Because what the angels wrote in that report wasn't just about what you survived, it was about what you're now qualified to carry. And here's your new assignment. Are you listening? Because this is going to sound too simple, too ordinary, until you understand the weight of it. You are assigned to speak life, not to preach sermons, not to build platforms, not to become some social media influencer at 75 years old. No, you're assigned to open your mouth in grocery store lines and watch depression lift off strangers. You're assigned to pray over your grandchildren and watch generational curses snap like dry twigs. You're assigned to walk into chaotic rooms and watch the temperature drop because you carry a peace this world cannot manufacture. Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." But most people miss what that really means. It means your words now carry weight, authority, creative force. When you speak blessing, things shift. When you declare breakthrough, barriers crack. When you whisper peace, be still, over situations that look impossible, the same God who calmed the Sea of Galilee moves on your behalf. But there's more. The second part of your assignment will shock you. You are assigned to be a stabilizing presence. You know why the enemy attacked you so viciously all these years, why the warfare was so intense, why you felt like hell itself had a personal vendetta against you. Because he saw this moment coming. He saw the day when you would finally understand that your age isn't your limitation, it's your weapon. Your experience isn't your baggage, it's your authority. This generation is drowning, beloved. They're lost in a sea of information but starving for wisdom. They've got podcasts and TikTok and 1,000 voices screaming for attention, but they don't have what you carry: tested faith, proven character. The kind of stability that only comes from walking through storms and watching God show up every single time. Isaiah 46:4 records God's promise. "Even to your old age and grey hairs, I am he who will sustain you. I have made you, and I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will rescue you." You think that's just comfort? No. That's commission. God doesn't sustain you just so you can survive. He sustains you so you can stabilize others. And here's the third part that's going to take your breath away. You are assigned to walk with renewed authority. Not borrowed authority. Not second-hand anointing. Not someone else's calling that you're trying to copy. This is the authority that comes from being refined in fire and emerging as pure gold. This is the power that flows from knowing, truly knowing that if God kept you alive through everything you've survived, He's got plans for you that will make your past look like preparation. The test wasn't to break you, chosen one. The test was to reveal you, to strip away everything that wasn't really you, the false identities, the people-pleasing, the need for human approval, so that what remains is pure, unshakable, dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Your calling is not retiring. Your calling is awakening. Like Moses emerging from that mountain, you're about to step into the fullness of an assignment you've been training for your entire life. The world sees an elderly person, heaven sees a general, society sees someone winding down. God sees someone finally ready to be wound up with supernatural power. So, here's what I need you to do right now. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, right now. Say it out loud where you are. I accept my assignment. Type it in the comments. I accept my assignment. Because, beloved, the angels already filed the report. Heaven already issued the orders. The question is, will you step into what's been prepared for you since before time began? Your new chapter doesn't start when you're ready. It starts when you say yes, beloved chosen one. As we come to the end of this divine appointment together, I need you to hold on to 3 eternal truths that will anchor your soul in the days ahead. First, you didn't fail the test, you passed it. While you thought God was silent, heaven was watching. While you felt forgotten, angels were documenting your faithfulness. Every tear, every prayer, every moment you chose to keep going when quitting would have been easier. That was your examination. And the results are in, ready for deployment. Second, your new assignment isn't about doing more, it's about being more. You've been commissioned to speak life, to be a stabilizing presence, and to walk with renewed authority. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Your scars aren't your shame, they're your credentials. Moses didn't glow because he was young and energetic. He radiated because he'd been in the presence of the Almighty. And third, this awakening isn't just for you, it's through you. There are people in your sphere of influence who are drowning, desperate for the stability only you can provide. They need your tested faith, your proven character, your unshakable trust in a God who has never not once let you down. But I need you to hear something that will settle deep in your spirit. You are not walking this path alone. The same God who sustained you through every valley is still moving in your life right now, in this very moment. He didn't bring you this far to abandon you at the threshold of your greatest assignment. Romans 8:31 declares it with authority. If God is for us, who can be against us? Not who might be. Who can be? The answer is no one. And beyond God's presence, you have something precious, a community. Right here, right now, thousands of chosen ones just like you are watching this message, hearts beating in rhythm with yours, spirits stirring with the same recognition. You found your tribe, beloved. This isn't just a YouTube channel, this is a gathering place for the awakened, the assigned, the ones who refused to quit when quitting made perfect sense. We are here. We see you. We will pray with you. So let me ask you this final question, and let it echo in the chambers of your heart. Now that you know heaven filed a report with your name on it, now that you understand you passed the test and received your new assignment, what will you do with this sacred commissioning? Will you shrink back into the shadows of "I'm too old," or step forward into the light of God says, "I'm ready"? Will you let fear whisper lies about your limitations, or will you let faith roar truth about your authority? Before I release you into your destiny, join me in this prayer. Wherever you are, in your living room, your bedroom, sitting in your car, place your hand on your heart and let me speak over your life with the authority of someone who has walked with God through fire. A prayer of commissioning. Heavenly Father, Almighty God, the Ancient of Days who sees the end from the beginning, I come before your throne right now, carrying every precious soul who has heard this word. Lord, they've walked through valleys so dark they couldn't see their own hands. They've climbed mountains so steep their knees buckled. They've weathered storms so fierce they wondered if they'd survive. But they did, Father. They survived. And now they know why. God, I pray that you would breathe fresh wind into their weary spirits this very moment. Where they feel depleted, restore them. Where they feel forgotten, remind them they're engraved on your palms. Where they feel disqualified, show them the angelic report that says, "Ready for deployment." Open their eyes, Lord, to see what you see. Not elderly people counting down days, but eternal warriors stepping into their finest hour. Not fading voices, but clarion calls that will speak life into dead situations. Not retired servants, but activated generals in your army. Father, I pray specifically over their assignments. Give them boldness to speak life when death seems louder. Give them stability to be the calm in others' chaos. Give them authority to walk into rooms and shift atmospheres simply by being present. Let them carry the glow of Moses without even knowing it, and let everyone they encounter feel the difference. Bless their families, Lord. Heal the broken relationships, restore the prodigal children. Provide for every financial need, strengthen every weakening body, sharpen every aging mind. Give them dreams and visions that confirm you're not finished with them yet. And God, surround them with divine connections, people who will recognize the anointing on their lives and call it forth. Protect them from voices that would try to convince them their season is over. Silence every lie that whispers too late, too old, too broken. Let them feel your hand on their shoulder right now. Let them sense your pleasure over their faithfulness. Let them hear you whisper, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Now let's finish strong together. In the mighty, matchless, all-powerful name of Jesus Christ, who passed his own test on a cross and emerged victorious from a tomb, I seal this prayer over every life represented here. Let your will be done. Let your kingdom come. Let your chosen ones arise. Amen. Now, beloved, I need you to do something. In the comments below, share what God spoke to your heart today. Maybe it was one sentence that cut straight through. Maybe it was a memory that surfaced. Maybe it was simply the confirmation that you're not crazy, you really were made for more. Write it down. Let this community see you and pray with you. And if you have specific prayer needs, health challenges, family struggles, financial concerns, clarity about your assignment, don't hold back. We're here. This isn't just viewers on a screen. This is family. We will surround you with intercession. If this message awakened something in your spirit, share it. Send it to that friend who's been feeling forgotten. Forward it to your sibling who thinks their best days are gone. Post it in your church group for that senior who sits alone in the back row, wondering if they still matter. Because somebody needs to hear what you just heard. Somebody is one click away from their own awakening. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for letting these words penetrate the sacred places where only truth can reach. Thank you for being brave enough to consider that maybe, just maybe, the test is over and the assignment has begun. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. Every week, we're gathering here a community of chosen ones who refuse to believe the lie that our best days are behind us. You belong here. Your voice matters here. Your story needs to be heard here. Until we meet again, walk in your authority. Speak life with boldness. Be the stability this generation desperately needs. And never forget you passed the test. The angels filed the report. Heaven issued the orders. Now go and fulfill your assignment. God bless you mightily, chosen one. Your awakening is complete. Your commissioning has begun.